So before we get started, if there are any questions about meditation, even basic beginner questions, I'm happy to answer them. You could unmute yourself, or you could put the question in the chat. It's okay if there's not. Okay. All right, well, let's just sink into the room a little bit. My guess is we'll have a few people filter in the next 5 minutes or so. But I want you just to kind of arrive where you are. Let your senses take the entire room in all at once, so that you're not hard focusing on any one thing. Just give yourself a chance to stop and be present where you are. Now from this place, bring your attention high in the body at the forehead and crown. And from this place, you're going to just start to watch your breath. As you breathe in, you're right there with your inhale. As you breathe out, you are riding that exhale all the way down. Effortlessly give your attention to the breath. And when the mind comes in to take you away from that, just don't play with it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to struggle with it. Just let the mind be the mind. You be the watcher of your breath. Let's do that for a little while, and then we'll talk a bit. Nothing to manipulate, nothing to achieve or understand. Just be you, watching your breath. A moment of unconjured authenticity. As you place your attention there, you'll feel the inauthentic parts of yourself slowly spin themselves out and fall away so that you can be with the breath. Put yourself through that process, through that simple shift in the attention. Slow yourselves down. There's nowhere to get to. There's no point of being done. No medals to be given out. There's just you, the real you, sitting underneath a pile of personal stories. Waiting for a chance to breathe. Let yourself breathe. People make the mistake in meditation of kind of putting themselves to sleep, sedating themselves so that they can get some control over the mind. But that's not real meditation. Real meditation sits in between focus and relaxation. The body has to be relaxed. It has to be given to its natural timing. So that silence is no longer awkward. But the mind has to be awake, poised between those two states. Meditation is not sleepy. It sits balanced on the edge of a razor. Wide awake. Ready to move in any direction at a moment's notice, but not yet committed to a direction. Potential energy at the top of the mountain. Meditation returns you to a place where anything is possible. You've brought the ball back up to the top of the hill. Those personal stories that you have, that's just all your spent energy. A system of spent energy that your life force now has to move through like a filter. Limiting what it can become. All those stories you carry around with you, everything you think you know about yourself, everything you think you know about the world, all the characteristics that you ascribe really hold in place for life. That's your spent energy. But none of it's real. None of it's real because in a moment, you can move right back up to the top of the mountain. In a moment, you can unchain yourself from all of those stories and move in any direction you need to. You may choose not to out of responsibility to some of the cycles that you've set in motion. I mean, we don't abandon our children. But even in this moment, you can let everything exhausting about your children go and be back at the top of that mountain, clean, breathing clear air, filling back up. You can give yourself the clarity that could allow you to take a completely new approach to your children. or to your job, or to your spouse, or to your life. I think the quickest doorway to help you jump back to the top of the mountain are the little spaces you leave for yourself in between things. That space that occurs when the symphony stops, but right before the audience applauds. That gap of absolute nothing space in between two stories. That pregnant nothingness that exists in between the inhale and the exhale. A doorway that happens twice in every breath if you're just willing to pay attention to it. You can slip through it, and you're back at the top of the mountain. And when you do it, you come to realize that all the things that were holding you back, you were doing it to yourself. You were choosing to hang on to stories. Those stories, they happened, but the meaning that they have for this moment, that's up to you. And you don't have to look at them at all. At least not right now. If there's something to deal with, you deal with it. But that's not how people work, right? They don't just deal with it. They carry it around in every single moment of their life, wondering why they're stuck. It's your own illusion, your own interplay of light and dark, brightness and shadows. A bunch of things you assign meaning to. As soon as you stop looking at them, that meaning disappears. And you're free of it until you shift your attention back to it. Anything that disappears that easily doesn't have its own self-existent reality. It's being held in place because on some level you've agreed to hold it in place. And you've been stuck in the system for a long time, your own system. But in between everything are these little pockets, these exit points, back to the top of the mountain. Back to a place where the meaning hasn't been assigned yet. At first, they look like just these little slivers of peace, these little slivers of nothingness. for a split second before you switch from the exhale to the inhale or from the inhale to the exhale. But what those little slivers are is actually the present moment that you're in. It's the present moment without you layering your crap all over it. So the more attention you give to those in-between spaces, the more you step into the freedom of the moment where you can participate in life without binding yourself to a bunch of harmful meanings. You know, you'll always participate in the world of meaning because you have to. That's how we relate to each other. That's how, we communicate. We communicate in stories and feeling. If you're going to participate in the world, you have to participate like that. But it's very different when you're doing it, but you know it's not real. It's very different. You can pick up a meaning and you can set it down. If there are people who have assigned a system of meanings that you don't want to participate in, you can just find a way to not participate with those people anymore. Or if you have to participate with them for a while, you pick up that thread of meaning, you do what you have to do, then you shift your attention, you put it down, and you walk away. Believe it or not, this is what meditation is. It's the mastery of the in-between. The mastery of the real you in between moments of false you. It's the mastery of the part of you that is self-existent, that doesn't require your thought to hold it in place. In between the parts of you that are just conjured, manipulated manifestations of stories. You don't have to give anything up. You just have to see what's real and what isn't. When you stop holding everything in place, there's a part of you that's still here. You get curious about what that person is. That person that wasn't given to you by your parents and your teachers. That person that flashes forward in the in-between. So I'd like us to go back into meditation. And let's work with the in-between that is between the breaths. The idea here is that there's nothing you have to do with it. You just have to become more and more aware of it every time it flashes. You'll get to a point where you can see it even while you're breathing. Why? Because it's really no different than seeing a bunch of clouds in the sky and not knowing what's on the other side of those clouds until you start to notice little partings of the cloud so that you can see the sky behind it. Once you've seen it enough times, even if the sky is cloudy, you still know what you're looking at. You still know what's there. You can sense it. You can feel it. So even as that moment, that space in between passes and you enter into the exhale, if you've really allowed your awareness to take it in, you'll find that there's a part of you on that other side, even as you're exhaling. It's just that the openings between the breath take you deeper and deeper and deeper, allow you to let go more and more and more. Now, if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. Anything at all. Okay. Then let's go back into meditation. And I want you to cultivate a silent curiosity about that space in between the breaths. Your job is just to breathe and become aware of the space in between the breaths. Let's do it. if you continue to practice in this way, a time will come when that door in between opens so widely that you no longer have to concentrate on it. You can just abide there. You can make it your home for any length of time. Just sitting comfortably in your true self. With all your energy flowing freely through you. That's a skill worth attaining. Though in a way it only comes when you stop trying to attain. Because the pursuit of attainment is a story. So if you sit with no agenda, but just give yourself to a practice like this, and really pay attention, really stay awake, you can learn to abide in your authentic self. Nothing in life asks this of you. So you have to ask it of yourself. The law of life is entropy. At least the law of the story is entropy. I mean, look at the people in your life. Are they getting saner and saner as they get older? Or are their imbalances getting more and more pronounced? But if you can step into your authentic, true self this way, you can actually step out of that stream. You can step back to the top of the mountain. Where your power of choice isn't limited. And you can use that to tell a better story, assign a better meaning, or you can just explore the vast experience of you outside the story. And that's where we all get to. Eventually the control it gives you over the story, and it does give you a lot of control over the story. You find that you can make all sorts of things happen in your life. But after a while you stop doing that. If things aren't going the way you wanted them to go, you don't manipulate it. Mostly because when you can stay at the top of the mountain, when you can stay at that authentic space, you pretty much have what you actually need. What you're supposed to have just kind of comes to you. You know, you have to take action, but those doors just open and you walk through them. So when you find yourself in front of a bunch of closed doors, if you're doing your spiritual work, I tend to question whether you're meant to walk through them. And I say that only because I have decades of experience of watching the doors open naturally when you're doing your practice. But you'll have the clarity to open anything you want. But the biggest gift is the ability to actually be in yourself. To actually be an unmanipulated, unconjured, non-version version of yourself. That being that you were before you were born, and that being that you'll be after you die. You're not the story. You're the being that got stuck in a system, a web of stories. But don't take my word for it. Step out of the story every day and see for yourself. Okay. So this week, I'd like you to find that space in between. I'd like you to find it in your meditation. I'd like to see you find it while you're washing your dishes. Find it in between the words somebody is speaking. You know, if you listen to someone speaking and then all of a sudden they stop, it's almost as if you're falling off a cliff into that space. See if you can feel that when I'm speaking and when I stop. Can you see how that little drop is the same as the drop you experience between your breaths? Notice the spaces in between. Notice the spaces in between your tasks. And give them your attention. Give them as much attention as you gave the task. Notice the stopping point. Notice the end of the story before the next one begins. Start threading what you're learning through your day that way. And then at night, give yourself at least 15 minutes of practicing this in meditation. And notice how when you've done that throughout the day, it takes no extra time to do this. When you've done that throughout the day, notice how different your meditation is at night. You'll be able to go much deeper, much faster. There'll be a clarity just waiting there for you, built up. And that clarity will not be separate from anything else in your day. And it will feed those moments of in-between in the next day. Because that space in between, that's an eternal moment. It's the same moment. It's the present moment. The present moment is not a moving target. The present moment is a realm of consciousness. The present moment is just the absence of illusion. I want you to work with that this week. All right, any questions before we close up for the night? Okay. You're welcome to email me questions if you have them. My pleasure, Sarah. I'm so happy that you're here. All right, guys. Have a great night. I will see you next week.